Hey you guys, it's your girl T. Kevin Duke posted this story on my Facebook page and it's getting a lot of traction online. So what's going on is that in outrageous ass Ohio, yes, they're back in the news. There's a 41-year-old man named Paul Pelton, and what happened is that basically two teenagers were speeding. They ran over a railroad track. They ended up crashing into somebody's home. While one of the teens laid there dying, the other one was critically injured. And instead of Paul being a good Samaritan, he decided to be a bootleg ass nightcrawler, okay? Now for you guys who don't know what a nightcrawler is, there was a movie that came out in 2014 with Jake Gyllenhaal, and basically the nightcrawler had a police scanner, and he would show up at grisly crime scenes, and he would be there to videotape everything, and he would post it online. So the police officers were so disgusted by what Paul did, because not only was he there videotaping everything, he wasn't rendering any type of help, he was getting in the way, but this idiot had the nerve to touch the door, okay? He opened the back of the door so he could get a closer look at the victims and was recording these kids dying and calling them idiots. And then the dumbass decided to post it onto Facebook where folks chastised him, went in on him, and caught the police on him. And now the police have charged him with the crime. This entire situation is crazy. I want you guys to go ahead and watch this news clip, and I'm going to come back with the rest of my commentary.
Got a fire. Got a car fire.
Lorain police say this cell phone video is evidence of a crime. Moments after a high-speed crash early Monday morning that claimed the life of a 17-year-old boy and left the 17-year-old driver critically injured, 41-year-old Paul Pelton of Lorain used his cell phone to record video at the accident scene.
Just talk to me. Just stay right where you're at.
Investigators say while other witnesses attempted to render aid to the two victims after the speeding car flew over a railroad crossing and slammed into a house, Paul Pelton took it upon himself to continue videotaping gruesome images at the scene and would later post the video on social media. Many people were outraged, and so were Lorain police.
All right, anybody got a hose right now? There is a fire.
Anybody need anybody's attention?
Investigators could not find a specific charge for the videotaping, but after consulting with prosecutors, they charged Paul Pelton on Wednesday with an obscure crime known as vehicle trespassing.
A lot of people videotape accidents and critical incidences from a distance, but to physically go up and put yourself inside a vehicle where there's two severely injured juveniles, that in itself crossed the line.
In the hours after the deadly accident, Paul Pelton attempted to sell copies of the video to Fox 8 News and other media outlets. Fox 8 declined his offer.
I apologize to the family. That's all I have to say. It's a very unfortunate situation. It put a lot of people at risk.
When Fox 8 caught up with Paul Pelton, he was clearly contrite about how his actions had affected those grieving the death of 17-year-old Cameron Friend and praying for the recovery of the driver, 17-year-old Zachary Goodin. Pelton maintains he decided to videotape the accident scene to warn others about the danger of drivers attempting to jump the rail crossing on Kansas Avenue in Lorain.
Should you have rendered aid instead of videotaping?
I couldn't render aid because I'm not a medic. I did look into the back seat, okay, to check to make sure that there was nobody in the back seat. And when the police did come, which was immediately afterwards, I told them about the car fire, and it was pure pandemonium. I don't wish that type of thing to anybody to go through.
Jack Shea, Fox 8 News in Lorain.
Watch the news clip, and I just find the whole situation just disgusting. Now, I do feel bad that these two 17-year-olds, one is critically injured, one is dead. While I feel bad for them, I'm not gonna lie, I'm not gonna front. These teens made some stupid decisions. For them to speed and jump over a railroad track was just a stupid decision. They could have literally killed somebody in that house. Thank God nobody in that house got hurt by that car crashing into their home. And this is why, as young people, we have to be very mindful of the way that we drive. We have to take personal responsibility, because some mistakes and some actions you cannot walk away from. This is not coming from a harsh place. I had a nephew who passed away about 4 years ago. You guys remember that, him and a few of his friends. He was 14 at the time. One of his friends was 17. It was 6 kids, and they decided to go on a joyride. And one of my little nephews and his friend, the driver, they ended up dying. You know, he died at the age of 14. So, you know, yes, kids will be kids, but certain mistakes, there's no coming back from that. There's no coming back from that. And I hope that people take from this story not just the whole part about Paul being an asshole, but about these kids out here just driving wildly, driving with no concern. You know, that you have to be careful. You know, driving is a privilege, it's not a right. And you have to make good decisions, because when you're driving, you're not only affecting yourself, you're affecting the passenger, and you're also affecting those around you. You know, but as far as this man, Paul, you know, I don't agree with what he did. A lot of folks are defending him and making some folks are defending him, not a lot. Some folks are defending him online and making excuses. They're saying that, you know, if these kids wouldn't have been driving crazy, he wouldn't have been out there, and why even charge him with anything? Who cares? You know, that's on these kids. Now, it's one thing if he wanted to be a nightcrawler and stand back and record this and, you know, give his, you know, bootleg commentary, that's one thing. But when you go to the scene and you're opening car doors and you're, you know, in the thick of it all, he was just doing way too much. I believe that he got too excited. I believe he was too caught up in the moment and that he wasn't thinking. And it's sad that in this day and age, I said this before, that in this day and age, when we see people in trouble, the first thing that we want to do is grab our cell phones as opposed to helping, as opposed to stepping up. The same thing happened down in Staten Island when Eric Garner got killed. Everybody had a cell phone, everybody was recording, but nobody jumped in to stop the police, you know, to get the police off of him. Same thing with the man who fell on the railroad track in New York. I talked about this about 2 years ago. You know, nobody jumped to try and help him. Nobody tried to, you know, throw him a lifeline, nothing. Folks sat there and literally recorded this man's last moment getting smashed by a train.
Duty and on Highway 67 Monday, wheels behind this horrific wreck. Sky 4 captures Williams in the accident scene in the blue striped polo.
That's when I started asking a gentleman in a white shirt who was standing there amongst the crowd of all these people, is there any way, does anybody have fire extinguishers? Just get me fire extinguishers. And
was the car on fire at that moment?
Yes, sir, it was.
30 years police. What Williams saw leaves him almost not able to speak. You watched these folk in this car.
Just literally be cremated, yes. To see the person writher, and you're trying to do your best to talk to them and using fire extinguishers to try to extinguish a flame. And at one point, it's the first time I've ever prayed for someone to go ahead and pass. And I say that not to be disrespectful to the family. I prayed for them to pass, and I was only hoping, and it may sound kind of crazy, that using the fire extinguishers would provide some comfort to this.
Some relief in that moment.
Yes.
There was something else, though, that bothered you about yesterday.
Yes.
As much as the accident.
Yes.
People and their response.
Right. In my peripheral vision, in addition, within a very close distance, you see people filming with their cell phones. That's what you see. A person's actually dying in front of your eyes, and rather than you making it a priority, putting yourself in a role as a first responder just to try to help out in some way, you choose your priority to be filming somebody's death. Where I was actually having to get a lady to get back away from the vehicle with her cell phone while she was trying to videotape at such a close distance. You should try to help, even if it was just a bottle of water that you had sitting in your car to throw on the person. You don't know what comfort that would have brought. But like I said, at that point, Sean, I just prayed that God would go ahead and take them.
So we live in a very sick society where a lot of us, I feel, we're missing our humanity chip. You know, I don't understand why anybody would want to sit there and record somebody's last moments and record somebody dying. You know, it's kind of, especially in that manner. I do find it kind of creepy, but for him to basically not only record it, but to post it on social media and then to look for compensation, to me is utter and complete bullshit. For him to try and sell the death video to the news organizations, he definitely deserves to be in jail. Am I saying he needs to be in there for the next 10 years? No, he didn't kill these people. He was just, you know, he made a bad decision. But he does deserve to, you know, basically pay a fine or, you know, maybe do, you know, a week or so in jail and really think how his actions affected the family members of these teens. So I just found the whole situation just really, really sad. Anyways, let's go ahead and get the discussion popping. Once again, this is coming from Outrageous Ass Ohio. This is some outrageous ass shit. I'm gonna need Paul and his nightcrawler wannabe ass to have several damn seats for this story. So anyways, let's go ahead and get the discussion popping. Go ahead and leave a comment. All right. Deuces. Hey YouTube, it's your girl Lovely T, and you can show me some love by hitting that subscribe button, watching my previous videos, and following me on social media.